Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to groupHomeRiches.com. Today, I'm with our coach, Terrence, and we are going to walk you through how to not just start a group home, but how you could start five group homes in 2025 with no license, with little to no money down, no certifications. You don't need to be a real estate investor. You don't need to be a health expert or anything like that. And it's going to take us about 20 minutes today just to kind of walk you through those first steps, answer most of the common questions, and show you guys the first steps that you could take today. So stick around for about 20 minutes. We're going to give you guys actionable steps and walk you through how you can do this stuff and how you can get started today if you wanted to. So with that being said, Terrence, welcome and thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Let's give the folks just a quick background on yourself and why you would be a great person for me to have you on and show these folks how it's done.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Terrence. I'm currently in Tampa, Florida. I operate 7 group homes now, all doing the rental arbitrage model, and opened our first home in April of 2021. And like I said, we've scaled it up to 7 homes since then. I did not have a lot of capital at the beginning, didn't have a lot of networks or connections or anything like that, but followed the group home riches model and literally was able to scale up to a multi six-figure business.
Beautiful. So you brought up the numbers. Let's get into that. So this is the outline, guys. We'll go through these kind of topics today. I want to talk about the opportunity. So this is a very common question that people are thinking when they first got into this. I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably have some type of, motivation to help your community, right? But you don't want it to just be a charity, right? So you heard Terrence talk about a multi six-figure business. Let's kind of just break that down. Let's show you why it's kind of counterintuitive, but you can actually we see typically about 10x the return of your typical rental property. And let's just break down with simple numbers, why that's possible. First, I want to just kind of lay the groundwork here. And Terrence, you let me know if this is similar to what you're doing in Florida, but this is the type of property that we're going to be looking for. There's no special zoning or anything like that. We're looking in affordable areas. So, lower to middle income areas where you're typically going to see flips and rentals. So I just kind of want to set the tone for the people out there, watching and listening to this. So this is not like a big health facility or anything like that. Just your typical, larger residential property in a normal neighborhood. Terrence, would you say that that's, similar to your properties or the majority of them at least?
1000%.
Cool. Let's just do some basic numbers. In these areas, at least in Central Texas, you cannot get a studio or a one bedroom. And again, we're talking the affordable areas to begin with. You can't get anything for less than like $1,000. Okay. So we offer clean, affordable, structured housing. It's typically 2 people per bedroom. And our price is going to be on average about $650 per person. And that's with all bills included. Terrence, are your numbers similar to that? And you're in Central Florida, right?
Yep. I just bumped up to 675.
All right, let's keep it to 650 then. And again, that's kind of similar in most markets. If you're the Bay Area, New York City, LA, you might see a little bit higher. If you're in the middle of nowhere, you might see a little bit lower. But these are pretty conservative kind of average numbers. 650 times 2. That's going to be what we call the gross revenue, and that's per bedroom. Now, obviously, we're going to look for larger homes, right? We don't just want a 2 bedroom house or 1 bedroom. We're going to look for those larger 4 to 5 bedroom homes. We may convert a garage. We may get, 2 or 3 more bedrooms out of it. We have some absolute cash cows that are like 8, 9 bedrooms. For this example, I'm just going to, again, let's just keep it conservative and say it's your typical, 4 bedroom. Now, these are properties that may rent. If you gross rent might be 1,500, 1,800, 2,000, something like that. We've bumped our gross up to 5,200. About half of that, including the rent and everything like that, will go towards expenses. This is in between, right around the net profit that we get per property. Terrence, same thing, and you're renting all of your properties, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and I'm around the same thing.
So around the same thing, right? So that's net profit, guys. Terrence, you had other things going on. You were working a full-time job when you were starting out. At this point, you're consulting with Group Home Riches. So you weren't even putting full-time energy into this. But after your first like year and a half, 2 years, how many properties did you have?
I think I went up to 4, if I'm not mistaken, after 2 years.
That's with basically part-time effort, correct?
Yeah, because I still had my full-time job at the time.
Even now, we won't use 7. I want to keep it kind of realistic, conservative. Even now, How many hours per week would you say you put into managing your group home business?
Less than 5 hours a week.
Okay. And we'll get into how that's done, guys. But that's again using our kind of conservative basic numbers and a real life example on call. This is what you can expect to do. We have plenty of clients that do this in their first couple of months, in their first year with part-time effort, earning six figures. You can now see why Terrence mentioned multiple six figures, living that 4 to 5 hour work week lifestyle. Talk about every one of these topics for an hour, but I'm going to burn through these. Okay. So that answers, why would I do this instead of just doing a, rental property or flips or anything like that? So this is not a charity, and you actually make, again, about 10x the typical rental property. If you go look on biggerpockets.com or these places teaching you how to be a landlord, you'll see that they are aiming to make $200 or $300 per month on a good month. Let's burn through these typical frequently asked questions, Terrence, and then we'll show them how to get started today. Okay. The
Sounds
first
good.
thing, this is probably our most common question. You guys are going to get a ton of resources if you want to look into this, but I beg you to just kind of take us at our word today. We've been around for over 10 years, but we have a long history of people backing this up. Okay. But licensing, what license do you need, right? You're taking in people, Terrence, like some of the services that the people in your houses need. Feel free to add on, but it's stuff like case management, rehab. Maybe some of them may need nursing or medication or anything like that, right? So why don't you walk through, break down, where did you need to go apply for those certifications and licensing in your area in order to do that?
This is my favorite part of this business model. You do not need a license to get started. No license, no certifications, no extra thing for zoning, just a regular residential home.
How can you explain that? Why don't people need a license?
I would say from what I learned from you guys, it's because of the federal fair housing law. A while back, Oxford House went all the way to the Supreme Court because they wanted to provide safe, affordable housing for individuals who were unrelated. And I think it was either a HOA or a zoning law that tried to restrict them from doing it. But nonetheless, it got all the way to the Supreme Court, and what they ruled was when you're housing individuals with disabilities, which is what we do here with working with the people transitioning out of homelessness, then you don't need a license or anything like that to have individuals who are unrelated live underneath the same roof.
Yeah, not just the Oxford House. There's a ton of history on this, guys. I'm not going to go through the details today. I encourage you to get the gold course and check out the legal section or listen to the podcast with Latanya, who is a lawyer that specializes in this. But in short, you do not need a license. You are protected by federal fair housing laws that protect against discrimination and things like that. We are not encouraging you to advertise these services that your folks need. The key is that all of those services that Terrence's house guests need are outsourced. Terrence, do you have any nurses on payroll or anything like that?
No, sir.
So if this is going to come down to the first step, you're going to look for nonprofit social service organizations in your area that provide those services, or you can outsource it to home health companies. But in general, Terrence, when you get a lead or a referral, most of those services are already set up, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, because a lot of the time they're being referred from their case manager.
Bingo. So does this stop local, cities from trying to shut people down? No, it doesn't. But if they do, they can get in big trouble. So Terrence mentioned the Oxford House. This is from our gold course that documents a couple other, lawsuits like this. And we actually just had a gold course student. This is, as far as I know, this is our only student that's ever had to go through this. Typically, we just, you know, deal with code compliance on our own and they're going to back off. But yeah, she actually went through. So she was in Texas and she had a code compliance officer that was just off the rails, wanted to discriminate against her and her tenants, didn't care about the federal laws and got in trouble and she got paid $30,000. So we have a ton of documentation on this, but again, keeping it short today, you do not need a license. You don't need a certification. You don't need to go to your city and like apply to do this. Okay. You're going to start today and we'll show you exactly what you can do. Costs. This will kind of come down to the first step, but there's no grants. There might be. Terrence, have you ever heard of a grant for startup costs, or was there a place that you went and applied for funding for your city or to go purchase a property or anything like that?
Not that I've heard of, no.
How much did you had? I know you got the gold course and our coaching service.
Mhm.
On besides that, how much did you spend in total, do you think, with housing, supplies, etc.?
It was really just the rent payment for the first property. So first month's rent, security deposit, supplies, and everything was not a lot at all. Because you guys teach us to be resourceful with how we're filling the needs of the property. So using things like the Salvation Army, the Restore. I found a great store in here in Florida, and I think they're nationwide. Habitat for Humanity. They have a bunch of furniture that you can get for a really good price, and then Facebook Marketplace, things like that. So you can fill up a house for, I would say, less than $1,000.
There you go. And guys, you're gonna get links to all these podcasts as well as Terrence's. Awesome, hear his full story. Jasmine is one of my favorite stories. She was literally homeless when she found us. So Terrence actually did have a little bit of funds he could put into it, so he was able to cover the rent. If you're not, even if you're absolutely broke, if you're literally in a homeless shelter like Jasmine, you can still get started with this. And getting the property isn't even the first step. It's like the second or third step. We're going to show you those first steps to take. So when you do, partner with a landlord or investor like Jasmine did, or if you start renting, you're not going to lose that rent. You're already going to have your clients lined up, ready to go. So you have income coming in immediately. So no matter what the housing strategy is, whether renting like Terrence did, whether getting into a property with absolutely no money down like Jasmine did, or if you want to purchase the property, whatever that is, that's not even the first step. So the costs, those are your main costs of whatever the housing is. And even if you have absolutely zero funds, you can still get started and get rocking and rolling. Jasmine did 3 or 4 properties in her first year with no money down, as long as you follow our blueprint and the steps we're about to get into. But again, I want to cover these first couple questions for everybody because these are usually things that hold people back. So systems, let's talk about systems just briefly, Terrence. So first thing, you are not renting the property to all these people, right? You want to break that down, Terrence?
Yeah, you're not renting it. What you're doing is you're having them sign what we call a license agreement. So it's almost like they're involved in a program to where that includes housing for the time that they're there. So it's a month-to-month agreement, and Brandon's pulling it up so you guys can see it. And it clearly states that it's not a lease that they're signing up for. It's a license agreement to let them be a part of the program, and it is month to month.
Yeah, think of it like a hotel stay or Airbnb or something like that. You're not leasing the property, you're just simply licensing space. So these are basically house rules on in legalese, okay? And you can use the same one that we use. You could get that with the gold course. But with the systems in the gold course, you're going to have way more control over your property. One, you're going to be getting guaranteed checks from the government or indirectly through the government by partnering with these nonprofits and social service organizations. So that's a huge thing with property management. So there's no more chasing tenants down for the rent check every single month. You're getting guaranteed checks. Two, you have way more control over the property. Terrence, what's the eviction process like if one of your guests or licensees are breaking the house rules?
We thankfully do not have to go through the eviction process. If they break the house rules, it was clearly they signed it. We explained what would happen to them in advance. So if you break one of the house rules, like you show up drunk or something like that, then we have the right to ask you to leave, and that's it.
So no more eviction process. Again, guaranteed checks, way more control over the property. If Terrence really wanted to, you could just go pop into those properties right now, just walk in, no notice or anything like that, and make sure everyone's taking care of the property, correct?
Absolutely. And one step better, I have security cameras there. So nothing in the bedrooms or the bathrooms, of course, but in the common areas, we have security cameras. Outside, we have security cameras. So I don't even have to leave my home to check in on how the houses are doing.
And what we typically recommend on top of like security cameras and things like that, do you have something similar to a house supervisor in every property?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a house supervisor at every location, and that is pretty much just my eyes and ears of the property, making sure everyone's following the rules. If anything does happen, they usually will send me a text, keep me updated, making sure the trash goes out every week like it's supposed to, small things like that.
Boom. So again, won't get into the nitty gritty details on that, but with the systems that we just kind of covered. And, again, much more detail in the gold course or on our YouTube webinars, interviews. Again, dive through the stuff if you guys want. But using those types of systems, that's how Terrence can manage, quote unquote, manage 7 of these properties, earn multiple 6 figures with part-time effort. Again, kind of counterintuitive, but they're actually simpler to manage and have a lot of advantages compared to if he had, 7 rental properties. Those are kind of the basics, guys. We just want to get those out of the way, go over these first steps. So, Terrence, when you were in our coaching program, what was the first thing that we recommended and actually required you to do before you went and had a property?
Do the marketing first.
Bingo. So we mentioned this, right? So referral sources, nonprofit, social service organizations, that is the first step. Again, back when you were just first starting out, you were kind of wet behind the ears and nervous, right? It probably didn't make that much sense. But after you had your first couple of contacts, those relationships, did you understand why we had you do that first, Terrence?
Absolutely. It helped with my overall confidence in the business model. And then, when it was time to get ready to find a property, it made it a lot easier to talk with landlords saying, hey, I already have these nonprofits that are ready to go and ready to work with me. Without that, may still be looking for a property. Who knows?
Yeah, think about it. Imagine if you did like just bite the bullet and go put your money down for rent, right? Take that big long shot. You would have just been out of rent money and you might have been facing an eviction because you didn't have the referral sources, right?
Yep. Yep. It
So
would
that's
just
why we
be a
recommend it first. So if you are just starting out, most people can kind of relate to this. They don't know what the first step is. They think it's to get the property first. They're kind of tight on funds. They're not really sure what happens if I get the property, and then I have rent due. What happens if I can't fill the house up first? And they think that they can't start marketing if they don't have the house. That is completely wrong. So what you're going to do immediately after this video, if you want to start today, is go find a nonprofit in your area or social service organization. We'll pull up some examples for you right now and just give them a call and hit them with the basic pitch that I'm going to go over. Again, these are all detailed out how to find these organizations, all the keywords, how to build a big list like this and get those referral sources first. So I have a couple of them pulled up. You can find these by going into your area, and just one of the keywords from the gold course is called rapid rehousing. So this is one that Andy, the founder of Group Home Riches, has worked with in Texas. You can see it's very clear what they do. Rapid rehousing, right? So they have people that come in off of the street or out of rehab or whatever. They get set up with their services. One of those services just so happens to be rapid rehousing or rental assistance. This is one program, guys, that the government has called the Continuum of Care program. It's almost 3 billion. These guys receive over $1 billion per year. So there is massive funds that is going into trying to solve this problem. There's people that work at these places. Again, you guys go to Google, type in rapid rehousing my city, whatever city you're in, and you will find places like Endeavors. Okay. Here's another one. We found these guys, Terrence, these guys down the road from you, but I remember finding them for one of our coaching clients, and they just have a really nice website. Same thing, services, support service, and boom, they also have housing service, right? So, Terrence, you're making these calls, you're getting these first meetings with our done with you clients. What's the reaction like when you're speaking with these people? Maybe they're tasked with finding landlords in the area that want to work with their clients. What's the conversation like when our clients who don't have a property yet reach out to them and they're not licensed or anything like that? What's the reception like?
Man, I got to tell you, Brandon, so my background is in sales, right? That's what my full-time job was. So I'm used to cold calling, pitching people, and trying to convince them on why they should work with me or buy my product that I was selling. These calls are nothing like that with organizations. Once they find out what you're trying to do and how you're going to help the community, they literally start pitching you on why you should house their clients. It's amazing.
Yep. You'll hear things like, oh my God, you made my day, things like that, right? You're a godsend. So
Oh,
guys, you can hear live marketing calls and a live recording of an actual live meeting with one of these places in your area. But that is the first step and what you focus on, honestly, for the next 2 to 3 months. So right now, you're kind of feeling fuzzy about it. You're not really sure where to start. I want you guys to ask yourselves, What would happen if you had a contract with an organization like this in your area, or at least a verbal agreement? You had an amazing conversation with them and they said, oh my God, yes, we're looking for people like you to work with. Please let me know when you have your first property. We have 2,000 people on our waiting list. Okay. So you call these places up or you email them. We have these pitches and these calls in the gold course, but you're going to say something like, hey, my name's Terrence. I'm with XYZ Housing Services. We're a new real estate company. We plan on opening 3 to 5 properties in the next year or so. Rather than go the traditional route, we'd like to help with the affordable housing problem in blank city. We see that you have a rapid rehousing program, and we're just calling to get more information on that. You guys can copy and paste that from the transcript or get it from the gold course, but that is the first step. And then when you have these contracts, when you have these either contracts or agreements, or at least the connections, Terrence, how many referral sources like that did you have before you were able to go out and pitch the investors that you were, I think you're still working with?
Yeah, it was three. I always recommend and got it from you, three solid referral sources that you have before you go and start looking for a property. 3 to 5.
And then once you have those, you're an asset for these investors. If you can explain the same questions that you guys have right now, if you can explain that to the investors and also let them know, hey, I'm going to be making, six, seven, $8,000 on this property. So I'm willing to work out a partnership agreement with you. We can split the profit, or I'm willing to pay above market rent. I'll handle all the maintenance issues for the property, and I plan on being here a long time. We have a whole pitch that you can use for that when it comes time. Don't even worry about that yet. Do that first step, do the marketing, look for those organizations in your area, and just try emailing a couple of them. You don't even need the gold course yet. Go try to prove me wrong. Okay. So that is the first step that you could take. You don't need a license or anything like that. We have a ton of services that you can use if you do want to, be gung ho with it. You have big goals and you want to kind of pay for a shortcut. We have multiple coaching services, the gold course, etc. I recommend you start with the free guide at grouphomeriches.com. Our contact information is in the description. I'm going to have a whole bunch of other interviews for you guys to go do a deep dive on this if you'd like. You can always email me at brandon@grouphomeriches.com. If you want to work with Terrence, why don't you drop the folks where they can reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, you could reach out to me via email, which is terrence@grouphomeriches.com. And if you want to connect on social media, it's at I am Terrence Garcia on Instagram and TikTok.
Beautiful. Guys, start with the free course, www.grouphomeriches.com. Don't waste any time looking up certifications in your area or how to get a grant or anything like that. If you have any fuzziness on any of those main topics, you could just simply email us. We'll take care of you for free. We'll answer all those questions, whatever needs to be done to get you confident enough to start picking up the phone. And once you do that, the sky is the limit. You could do 7 properties like Terrence. You could do 5 or 6 like our other coach, Eric, or you could do this like our founder, who's just scaled this to hundreds of doors and gotten into multifamilies and hotels and things like that. We have another client, Andrew, here, who made $1 million in his first year. Okay. You could take it as big as you want or as small as you want. We find a lot of people just want to get to that comfortable kind of part-time 6-figure place that Terrence is at. And working with us, if you guys are gung-ho, if you follow our instructions, we want you to have 5 of these in 2025. So start free course at grouphomeriches.com and feel free to reach out to us anytime. Terrence, thank you so much for joining us, and let's get some more happy, satisfied, rich clients in 2025.
Let's do it. 5 and 25.
All right, man. Thank you so much.